I've got 6:02 on Monday, March 20th. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Winooski City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Deputy Mayor Thomas Renner.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So next up, we have agenda review. Any order, questions, concerns? No. Okay. So we are on to the public comment section of our meeting. This is the portion of our meeting where folks who are here not for an item on the agenda. So if you are here for something on tonight's agenda, please wait for that time. We will start public comment with Eric Gravel. Did I get that right?
Yep.
All right. If you want to introduce yourself, and you may make a comment.
My name's Eric Gravel. I'm supposed to get the Wi-Fi link?
Yeah.
Just 1 second. I'm trying to connect to Wi-Fi.
If you wanted to try and handle housekeeping, you
Which one?
could try going all the way down to Winooski.
Let me double check if there's anyone in the,
City's Hall. That one.
anyone I need to promote in the,
Okay.
while you're getting set up, is there anyone on Zoom who is here for public comment? You can use the chat or raise hand feature. And anyone else in the room? I think you're all here for items. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, looks like you're connected. Try just, open like a Google browser or something.
So how do I connect to that? So,
Do you have a browser open?
I don't know.
Like Safari?
Probably.
Yeah, just try clicking that. And then your window name. Or if you click on this one with the compass, and then just type in google.com. And enter. Okay, looks like you're connected, so you should be able to launch it wherever it is.
All right. It's on my documents.
Right, so
Or I was
I'm going
going
to join the
to.
Zoom. Right, so you're going to go to
I
Winooski.
was going to put it in here. Watch it through here. Do you want me to send it to you again?
Well, you could join the Zoom and then drag. That might be trickier.
I'll just send it to you again.
Okay, let's try that. Do you want to take the minutes or do the consent agenda?
Can we do that?
I guess, well, you could go back and review the agenda.
All right, so while we're getting this organized, we will come back to public comment. So for the consent agenda, we have City Council and Liquor Control Board minutes of March 13th, the payroll warrants for February 5th and February 19th, and the accounts payable warrant for February 28th and March 15th. I'm going to separate these out given your term, Charlie. So are there any questions on the consent agenda items?
No.
All right, can I have a motion to approve item A, the City Council and Liquor Control Board minutes of March 13th?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Items B and C, the warrants. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those abstaining?
That's it.
Abstain.
Thank you. Okay, that is the consent agenda. Elaine, do you need another moment?
Yeah, Eric's trying to get me the link so I can try to share it from here. Do you want to handle the first agenda item, the Finance Commission appointment.
Sure. Well, we can do council reports while we're waiting. Aurora, would you like to start?
Certainly. So on March 14th, we had a meeting of the Safe, Healthy, Connected People Commission. The primary discussion during that meeting was a detailed review of the work that's been done over the course of the last fiscal year in the departments of fire, police, and our community service. And then discussing, thinking about strategies and priorities going forward. There's a lot of great discussion, and there was a feel of thinking about the items of equity, childcare / access to early education, access to mental health and healthcare, as well as recruiting and retaining fire, police / emergency services personnel. Ray has a more detailed information that will be in the notes and brought to the strategy and priority meeting in May. We went a little bit more than 3 or 4, I think was the request, but we saw especially the items around equity kind of tying into some of the other priorities.
Okay. If you can share notes, each of you, with me, I'll put them together and we'll actually get those on a council agenda so we can see them all when all the commissions are done.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else?
The next Inclusion and Belonging Commission is going to be April 15th.
Okay.
And for municipal infrastructure, we met March 16th. And similar to Safe, Healthy, and Connected, we primarily focused on strategies and priorities, what's been accomplished to date, as well as what we have capacity for in FY24. The group is really interested in moving forward 4 primary areas for the council to consider for further ordinance build out or other policy build out as appropriate. With primary interest being for protection of green space, city-owned green spaces, furthering some language, ordinance language, or as appropriate, promoting green belts. And as there's streets that are paved and have curbing go in, building those out, as well as potentially having some green belts or boulevard effects where there's a greenway that's a dividing line down the road. So there was a great amount of interest in that. And then other additional areas that they want to have additional consideration and conversation either at the council level or with other commissions was on energy code compliance within the city for new construction, especially for renovation of existing homes. As well as any salvage yard regulations. So while not an issue now, it's within the authority and jurisdiction of the city to develop that per legislative adoption and preventative for potential future salvage yard adoption. So the group had really good attendance, which was exciting to see, and the next meeting will be April 20th.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Finance Commission didn't have quorum, so we did not have this discussion. It got rescheduled to the 28th, and Councilor Oakleaf is filling in,
Yes.
as I'll be recording in the world of Winooski that evening. Planning Commission meets on Thursday at 6:30. They are continuing the discussion on parking regulations and historic preservation incentives. I think their following meeting, so the first meeting in April, is when they'll have their priority discussion.
I was actually unable to attend Downtown Winooski's last meeting, but they are just continuing their work in searching for a new executive director.
All right. Anything to report?
Not in so far. I'll be on a commission after today, I think, so hopefully.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah, potentially, so.
All right. Thank you. Are we good to go back to public comment?
I'm just
Okay.
gonna play it off my computer here.
Sure. Are you in the Zoom?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think-
he doesn't have it installed, and I didn't want to do that to his computer, so.
Okay,
And I
okay.
couldn't get it
I'm
to
not
launch
very
the browser.
technologically savvy, so.
Do you want to?
I will,
What's the best?
the audience is right there. You guys have all seen the video, correct?
Yeah.
Yes? You guys haven't, so, okay, so the only people behind it. Where's the Zoom camera at?
Right there, facing you.
Okay,
If you,
It's gonna-
I mean, you could point it to the camera, and then they can all see.
okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, that works for me. Didn't even think of that, kind of slow. Okay. Oh, shit.
Well, hey, stop the fucking car when you turn the lights on. When the fucking lights are on, yes.
Why?
Okay?
Why? What did I do for you guys to want to pull me over?
You grab a second. Okay, A, get back in the car. Okay?
Get back in the car. I'm not getting back in the car. It's my driveway. All right, what do you want? You're on my property. Did I say good
This can be Eric Gardner's residence. You're out with Eric Gardner.
Lock you back in the truck. You're gonna have to hide.
Sir, get back in the car for me.
No.
I'm talking to you. What's his house number?
Why?
What's your house number?
Why do you bother me right now?
Corner of Pine and MDA. First house up on the hill. You'll see us. Okay. Don't reach your pocket. Okay? Excuse me.
Hey, motherfuckers!
Don't-
Hey,
don't-
hey, don't you even fuck with me like that. I'm not the fucking one. Don't fuck with my shit like that, you son of a bitch. Shit, no. No, fuck this motherfucker. You bring my shit for a fucker.
Turn around. Turn around. Turn around. Turn around. Okay? Turn around. Turn around.
No, you're not handcuffed. You have no reason. Look, I'm right here. Stop it. I don't even fucking know. I don't know.
No, free him out.
Why do you make it happen? Look, you're the motherfuckers are leaving me with stop. I did in my fucking driveway. Are you done?
Yeah, so I can see your hands. Thank you, then keep them there. It's dark out so I can see what's going on. Yeah, we'll give them to you in a minute, okay? Yep, no, we'll give them to you.
I
You
didn't
don't want to
twist
see.
my hand. You got the cuffs. All right, so what do you guys want? Okay, you did your job. What are we doing now? Oh, you're gonna give me permission to turn around now? Here, want me to take off the shoes? Come on, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Okay, you got to hold over. All right. In my driveway, yeah, okay, you'll pull it. So what? So what? So what? Stop until right here. That's failure to yield. You're arrested right now for that. Okay? I mean, you just did arrest me. You haven't read me my rights. I'm in fucking handcuffs.
He doesn't need to if he's not asking you a question. Put him in the car. No, get in the car. We're under arrest for eluding police. So you put on his lights and siren, you didn't stop?
What are you talking
Is that
about?
what happened?
You're fucking dead.
Is that the charge? Alright. And we'll do DUI field sobriety
Yeah,
test.
okay.
Okay. Give him a quick bath time and take him back. We'll deal with it there. Well, since you want to talk and cooperate, that's what's going to happen. We found out that she doesn't have any weapons? Okay. So, listen, my officer's claiming he put on his blue lights way back at West Spring Street, okay? And then his sirens. I can hear it on the radio when he did try and stop, okay? So it wasn't in the driveway. I can hear it, you know, and I can tell you right now, Justin, you're not in good standing with the courts right now. Our state's attorney, we are 100% against right now. She's 100% against us. She thinks the cops in this county are nothing but racism.
You're a fucking punk too, bitch ass punk.
Blame me, bro.
And you have some follow-up comments, right?
Yes, I do. That was a very short video that I sent to the city council, like 4 days ago, a week ago. I actually have a 2-hour long one that I created that I sent to everybody as well. Has anybody had a chance to view that yet? It's all the footage, it's all the video. I outline all the violations that took place, when they took place, and how they took place. So I'm just going to take a moment to read what my comment is, and then I'll be out of the way. I come before the City Council and members of the public to discuss police training and oversight based on my knowledge of the law as well as from my personal experience on March 22nd, 2022, with Sergeant Bova, Field Training Officer Dugan, and Officer Sharif of the Winooski Police. I've been a resident of Winooski for 4 years and now come before this council and the public to discuss the funding of police training due to a clear system of police corruption in Winooski that I found myself defending myself against in court, for which all charges were dismissed. I had only spoken to the police one time in the years I had lived in Winooski until March 22nd, 2022, and that was when I unknowingly provided Chief Hebert video evidence of my neighbor, the mayor's father-in-law, coming onto my property to an attempt to steal my political yard sign that he did not agree with. He would have been successful if it were not for my other neighbor catching me doing it and bringing it to my attention. Chief Hebert did nothing with my complaint. I come today in good faith that I will be heard and not deny my right to petition my government for redress of grievances for the unlawful arrest and detainment of my person by Winooski Police and the subsequent cover-up of these officers' actions by Chief Hebert and City Manager Elaine Wang when I brought it to their attention. I fear that this intended objective to cover for their subordinates only fuels their officers' desires to continue their unlawful practices and is a huge miscarriage of the budget that exists due to our tax dollars. I fear that unchecked, more tax dollars will be wasted in poor training and on financial compensation to officers that knowingly, intentionally, deliberately, and willfully violate the rights of the residents of Winooski. What is very evident to me is that since these behaviors have gone unchecked, I have now become a target of Winooski Police as they retaliate against me and harass me. I've sent you numerous videos of that in email. For example, on January 9th, 2023, 30 minutes after an interaction with Sergeant Bova, I came home to 2 Colchester police officers stalking my home. On March 4th, 2023, Officer Willingham followed me numerous blocks to my home, stopped at the end of my driveway for 12 seconds, activated his alley light pointed at my house, and took off as I went to see why he was there. On March 6, 2023, I took my 18-year-old stepdaughter to the police station to report an adult online desiring to rape my 10-month-old granddaughter. Officer Willingham chose to do nothing with this information until it was learned that we had contacted the agency involved to check the status of the investigation. They never received any such report. Then, only after this failure came to light, was an attempt made to contact my stepdaughter. These are 3 examples of many I've recorded regarding these officers' failure to perform their duties as outlined in all policies, laws, state annotations, or any other governing documents to societal detriment. My experience cannot be a one-time occurrence, as is evidenced by the casual way in which these officers knowingly chose to perform the duties they were sworn an oath to, in contradiction to their oath and my protected rights. This is also evident by the fact that at no time during this experience did any of these officers report the other for their unlawful behavior, but only covered it up. I believe with the help of the chief of police, the internal affairs investigators, and quite possibly Elaine Wang, something that a full investigation would uncover if this investigation was not hidden from the public eye, as so many are. On March 23, 2023, Sergeant Bova was on scene for 60 seconds before he made the impulsive decision to fabricate charges on my person without even first taking the time to become fully informed and appraised of all the relevant facts and circumstances. Sergeant Bova, without knowledge of the scene, found jurisdiction for performing the unlawful arrest of my person, who was the object of Field Training Officer Dugan's unjustified irritation, which resulted in his unlawfully detaining me and depriving me of my First and Fourth Amendment rights. A clear case of contempt of cop based on Sergeant Bova's comment that he gets put in handcuffs immediately for not wanting to talk or cooperate. The lack of proper police training and oversight has resulted in rogue officers victimizing the citizens of Winooski. In my case, I spent over $5,500 in 9 months I spent over $5,500 in 9 months fighting to not be another victim of Winooski police corruption. In closing, I would like to say that I now fear harsh retaliation for speaking against these public officials, but my fear does not exceed my morals and values. So I implore this council to investigate my claims, not just via a strictly bureaucratic approach, but rather as elected officials with a sworn oath of office to uphold the Constitution for we the people. Thank you.
As I shared, as you know, we don't debate during public comment, but it is something that I'll be following up on, and one of us will be in touch. Okay. With that, we're on to city updates. Elaine?
Do you want to promote me to a panelist?
What's that?
Did you promote me to panelist?
I thought I did.
City updates for March 20th, 2023. Do that. Join as panelist. So a reminder that the city clerk's office hours are temporarily changed. They're open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and closed on Tuesdays. We currently have several job openings. Please learn more and apply at winooskivt.gov.jobs. That doesn't seem right. jobs.winooskivt.gov. And Winooski Recreation and Parks are hosting a pickleball tournament on Saturday, April 8th, 2023 at the Winooski School District Gym. This tournament is open to all abilities. Community members are welcome to join us for a fun day of competition, learning, and supporting a great cause. Prizes will be available for the tournament champion, best sportsmanship, even best dressed teams, and more. It's $30 to sign up. All registration proceeds will be donated to the Recreation and Parks Scholarship Fund. And that's all.
All right, thank you. So we're moving into our regular items, and the first thing is on for discussion approval, a Finance Commission appointment. Angela, you want to introduce?
I can absolutely do that. I don't see that Januka has joined us.
She's here in the room.
Would
you like to come up, Januka?
Perfect. So the chair of the Finance Commission, myself, and Parker Silver from the Inclusion and Belonging Commission all interviewed Januka and made our recommendations to the mayor. We all think that Januka will be a great fit for the Finance Commission. We currently have one vacancy as an alternate with a term expiring June 30th, 2024.
Thanks, Angela. Januka, do you want to come introduce yourself? At the microphone, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Januka Acharya. I've been a Winooski resident for about 8 years. I was out for a few years, but then came back to Winooski. I decided to join the Finance Commission because I have been here for so long, and Winooski has offered me so many things, and now I think it's my obligation to give back to the community. So. And my experience, I working as a finance personnel, I think I have a lot to give in the Finance Commission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your interest. Anyone have any questions for Januka?
Excited to have you join the commission. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment?
So moved.
Motion by Bryn, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item B. This is on for discussion, the fiscal year 2022 audit presentation.
Yes, John Boulay is in the attendees list. John is our auditor. Can promote him to.
Bringing him over now. John, welcome. I don't hear you. You're off mute though. We still can't hear you.
You could try calling it in.
You could try switching off your headset or using the dial by phone option. No, still no good.
Oh,
Oh,
that was something.
I thought I heard something just then.
Every time I speak around.
I can hear you now. John, I can partially hear you. It's kind of cutting in and out.
Maybe if he holds up the mic to his mouth. Maybe
Oh, maybe put the mic closer to your mouth. Can you hear us? John, can you hear us?
Apparently not. I'll try chatting.
So I can't hear you guys anymore.
No, I can hear you.
Testing 1, 2.
We can hear you.
Oh, I can hear you now. Okay, great.
Okay, great.
Huzzah.
Awesome. Okay, I just plugged my headphones back in. Is it still working?
It is.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thanks for having me on today. I'll just go through some things.
It just got really quiet. Could we just turn it up a little bit in here? Oh.
Use my laptop microphone. How does that work?
That's good enough.
Okay. I'll try and speak up too. So thank you for having me here today. I just wanted to start by saying thank you to Angela, for being so responsive and giving us the documents that we requested. It was a remote audit this year, so she's been very helpful, emailing and just very interactive, and it's made the whole process go very smooth and efficient. It's been great. So I've just prepared a few notes on FY22's audit that I'd like to go over. What I usually do is look at prior years compared to this year's and kind of go through some of the, major differences that I noted. And, we'll go through some of the notes that are, further down in the audit.
Great.
So I've got the audit in front of me. I don't know if anybody else does, but I do have notes on mine.
They received a copy right after it came out, so they've had it since late December, early January.
Perfect. So I will start on statement E, which is on page 24. This is your income statement. Basically shows revenues, expenses, any changes in fund balance. And what I like looking at on this schedule right here is all the way to the right, you got the total section. I go to the bottom, the third number from the bottom on the right, that 815,000. You know, that's the increase in total fund balance over prior year. And that's a good increase. And I will go through some of the smaller funds that make up that increase. I would say the general fund is where most of that increase came from. And that was, you know, intergovernmental revenues. Expenses seem to be about the same. So that intergovernmental revenue, that 1.634 million, that's, you know, a much bigger number than in prior year. And if you can see at the bottom, the excess or deficiency of revenue and other financing sources, the general fund balance increased 1.37 million as well. Going to the TIF downtown fund, you know, there's a decrease of 134,000, and I believe that is just, you know, higher bond and no principal payments. It's at 2.438 million, and in prior year it was a little less, around 2 million, I believe. Don't know the exact number, but definitely a little higher this year, and I think that's where that decrease came from. I'll skip over the community development loan fund, because 12,000, you know, isn't really material in the grand scheme of things. But moving on to that capital reserve fund, there was a decrease of 413,000, you know, which isn't awful. And I would say that is mainly due to the public works expenditures in that fund. Prior year wasn't near the 921,000. And this year, you know, that was just the biggest increase in expenditures in that fund that I noted. So, you know, regardless of those decreases in the middle of this document, you know, the overall fund balance at the end of the year increased by around 815,000.
One thing to note for council that fund balance increase is primarily due to the receipt of ARPA fund dollars.
Yes, and well, that's like the last note on my notes list is the single audit. So, you know, every year if you receive over 750,000 or if you spend over 750,000 in state grant funds or federal grant funds, sorry, you know, we have to do a single audit, and this year we ended up doing ARPA, you know, didn't find any, you know, material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. So that was very smooth, that went well. Moving on to statement H, which is on page 28 now. This is another income statement, you know, with changes in net position for the proprietary funds, you know, water, sewer, parking. And again, I'll go over the fund balance in this one as well. So that total column all the way at the bottom, third number from the top, changed around 638,000, decreased around 638,000 from prior year. Now I did look at prior year's financials, and I did note that last year there was also a decrease, a little less than this, but you know, typically in the same range. And as I look at the total net position that you have, I mean, it's a lot. So I'm not too worried about that either. You know, I think that large difference came from, you know, the purchase services and the parking fund. The purchase services and the parking fund were around 300,000. You know, in prior year, I don't recall if it was zero, but it was a lot less than that. And that was the biggest difference out of this whole schedule that I noted.
And those are the payments to the developer for the Lot 70 hotel and parking garage.
So yeah, I mean, if that's a one-time thing, then I don't expect, you know, that fund balance to decrease much more than 600,000 in subsequent years. So I'm not worried about that. That takes care of, you know, the proprietary funds. I'm moving to page 42 now. Now this is when I will get into some of the notes to the financial statements, some more detail. You know, page 42, letter B, receivables, you know, this small schedule basically, you know, shows, you know, what you're receiving as a governmental activity versus a business type, as in, you know, water, sewer. And then this, the only note I have for this one is, if we look at the grants line, you received 1.1 million in grants. That was the most significant change that I noted from prior year. And again, most likely due to the ARPA funds, and there's probably some other, grant funds that were received that could have increased that number. Okay, that will take care of that one. I'm moving to page 65 now. Now at the beginning, I did talk a lot about the fund balances and, the difference from prior year. This statement, or this note to the financials, talks about the breakdown of these, what's in governmental activities versus business type activities. And the only note I have for this is the restricted for capital projects. This was the largest difference from prior year that I noted. It increased drastically, and having more net position in fund balance is always a good thing, especially as a large city municipality. So that's a good thing to see increase there. Skipping to page 79. Page 79 is the budget to actual schedule. Schedule 1 basically compares, the budgeted amounts for revenue and expenses, compares them to actual, shows the difference. And the only note I have for this, we do look in detail at every single line sometimes and say, oh, some were overspent, some were underspent. But at the end of the day, I look at the excess of revenue over expenditures, and that total is 61,464 and change. That just tells me that, you received more revenues than you expended expenditures. So, revenues over expenditures is always a good thing, increase of fund balance, things like that. And yeah, that is, that's my presentation. I mean, I did have one last note about the single audit, but I kind of touched on that earlier. We tested the ARPA funds, and we had no findings for the audit, or the single audit this year. I do like bringing up that you are qualified as a low-risk auditee, and there, are a couple factors that play into that. Whether or not the last 2 years you had a single audit performed, and then if there were no findings in the prior 2 fiscal years, then that would also constitute a low-risk auditee. So, moving forward, most likely that would be a yes, as that you are low risk, just because we've done single audits since I can remember, and we haven't found any major weaknesses, significant deficiencies, things of that sort. So overall, really healthy, really good shape. Policies, procedures are in place, effective. I don't have any issues with the town, with the city. I think Angela's doing a great job over there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, John.
You're
Are there any
welcome.
questions
I'm
from
open
council? Sorry.
No, I'm open to questions, yeah.
All right. Any questions from members of the public? As a reminder, if you are in Zoom, you can use the chat or raise hand. Okay, great.
Christine, could I make one comment?
Yes, Elaine, go ahead.
So at one point, when Angela was very busy working in the current year, preparing for the next audit, or for that audit, and working on the budget, I said, is there something that, we could recognize all of your hard work for at some point when you're through with this? And she said, all I need is when the auditor presents the audit and it's clean. That's all the recognition I need. So just want to take a moment to realize that.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, she's doing a great job. I mean, it's definitely a stressful position, but she keeps us organized. She's got the binders that tell us, what is where, and it's excellent. We send out an audit checklist every year with for example, assets or A1, A2, things like that sort. And when she uploads them as that, it just makes our life, 10 times easier. So, kudos.
Excellent work, Angela. Another clean one. In your record book.
I'm very happy about it.
Okay, so let's move on to item C. This is the fiscal year 23 audit contract award recommendation.
So we had actually gone out to bid for the FY22 audit, and RHR Smith was the only responsive bidder at that time. It was for a term of at least 1 year with 2 additional years upon completion of an audit successfully and with no issues. We feel good accepting the continuation of this contract for the additional 2 years, starting with FY23 and also looking forward to FY24. The FY24 contract would be brought to you separately. This is strictly for the current year audit contract.
Okay, great. Any questions, concerns from council?
I don't know if it raises a concern, but I just noticed that the letter is addressed to the previous city manager and not to the current city manager, and I don't know if that needs to be updated.
I can make the request from the administrative support over there.
Great.
I had a similar, that's just an oversight, or do we have like some form somewhere that needs to be updated?
So our current city manager, Elaine, was not yet on board when the audit contract was issued last year. So this is new information for them, and we can absolutely get that updated.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 23 audit contract award?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you, Angela, and thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
We will move on to item D. This is on for discussion approval, a charter change to the Winooski Memorial Library Committee.
Hello, hello. And I think there are likely some folks in the participant list.
Yeah.
I don't have that pulled up, but I know some of the committee members were planning to be here.
If you are on the committee, do you want to raise your hand in Zoom and I will move you over?
Neat.
Excellent.
And while folks are coming over, just a quick table set. So as I mentioned back in June 2020, the committee met and sort of laid out their goals for this current year that we're in, one of which was to look at creating a youth position for the library committee. I think there was an acknowledgement that we see a lot of kids in that space and don't have a youth voice in the decision-making process. So Nate and the committee members have done a ton of work over that time to come to where we are today. And yeah, I'm gonna let Nate sort of shepherd things from here, if that's all right.
Sure, thanks, Ray. And thank you, committee members, for being here. Really appreciate your presence. So, as Ray said, we've been working with the library committee to create a youth position which would join the committee members. And we've been working on this probably since July or August. And it's been good, steady work. And we have finally, I think, all come to an agreement on what a position description / recruitment would look like for Winooski youth to join the committee. And we're here tonight in front of council to seek approval of a charter change, which has been shared with you, and the changes are in red. And essentially it is adding language, recognizing that a youth member will be hopefully recruited and approved by City Council to join the committee.
Awesome, thank you. And thank you, committee members, and Nate, thank you all for your continued support for the library. Great change. Any questions from council?
I don't have any questions about the change. Also really excited to see it. My one kind of question is, I appreciate kind of the equal opportunity language at the end. I'm just wondering if we want it to be kind of more in line with what we've put out for like job positions in other commissions, just for consistency. Or if there was a very specific reason why it's slightly different from what we've seen elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good question, Aurora. So we had a lot of conversation about what that language would look like among the committee. And also, I reached out to Paul to ask about city-approved language. And there were just some different feelings about especially the use of BIPOC as an acronym among the committee members. And people read that language through a different lens, and we recognize that. And I think for the committee members, we thought it was important rather than to use the acronym BIPOC to call out specifically the different groups that we were open to hearing from and hopefully recruiting to the position. And I don't know if any committee members would also like to voice your thoughts on that. You're welcome to as well.
I'll just comment because we did spend quite a bit of time working on it, and we wanted to make sure that the language was specifically inclusive to call out, voices that aren't always at the table and call in new voices, but also to make sure that anybody who's interested did not feel like they couldn't participate as well. So the attempt was really just to make sure to be as inclusive as possible, including around the BIPOC terminology, as Nate had already mentioned. So it was really an attempt to be inclusive as much as possible, especially considering we're dealing with a younger population.
I guess I'm just wondering, is there other things to add? Or that
Do you have something in mind?
we need to add?
Do you have an example of something?
I was both thinking about some of the language that we use for our Declaration of Inclusion, which we've been trying to use a little bit more consistently, I think. But I don't know, I guess my thought too is what is most approachable for youth who are coming to look at this position too. So I kind of have both of those of like, should there be some additional call outs? Or is this language more accessible? I think specifically around like ability, around specifically maybe calling out ethnicity, culture, religion.
Yeah, I'm happy to add different language. It's not a problem at all.
Wonderful. And I do appreciate the kind of the breaking out. Yeah, I would just wonder adding a couple more. But otherwise, it looks really great, and it looks very, reading it over, it seems like accessible language for folks who might be interested in this type of position.
Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say we should give some clearer guidance. Like, I think looking at what is listed here, I could see adding disability. Unless you're suggesting that instead of saying including those who identify as, but using the language from the Declaration of Inclusion that says including all persons regardless of race, color, religion, origin, etc.
Well, I appreciate the specific breakdown too, I guess moving away from just using the acronym BIPOC. So I guess maybe it is more thinking about, sorry, trying to pull it up, I should
Oh, the declaration?
Yeah.
I think I can put the link in the chat. There it is.
If I could offer, Christine?
Yeah.
It would probably be less confusing for the community if there was consistency. Not to undermine the work that the Library Commission has been putting in over a long period of time. These things sort of happened in parallel, I'd say.
And if there's consistent messaging, again, consistent messaging or language from the city, we'll just replace what we have with that.
We also wanted it to appeal to the younger people who might be applying. So that was in the back of our mind. So whatever decision is made, I would hope that we'll make it readable, or accessible to the people who might be interested.
I wonder if, almost similar, so leave the language that is there and maybe add like a link to the Declaration of Inclusion and Belonging, like, and yeah.
We welcome all
Yeah.
persons, etc.
Yeah.
That section.
As listed in the Declaration of Inclusion and Belonging. So just keep the language otherwise as is, for that, as Prudence brings up, making it more accessible, but still have that linked.
Yeah, so add a sentence at the end like, Winooski welcomes all persons. Please see our Declaration of Inclusion.
Yeah.
With a link.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Would you all be okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other question? You had something.
Yeah, just two questions. So for eligibility, live or go to school, I'm assuming that is to be inclusive of students that are homeschooling. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure that I had that. And then be in grades 8 through 12. That just it read a little. I feel like some clarity of entering grades 8 through 12, just given the timing of September through June. So if somebody, I don't know when you're planning on doing your recruitment, if it's going to be over the summer. So they may not have started grade 8 yet, but will be entering grade 8 in September.
Right. Yeah, so I think the intent was entering, correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, so that's a quick change.
So that was just a minor.
Yep.
So
No, that's a good
just
catch.
2 minor things there, but that was it for me.
Yeah, because I expect we would do some recruitment probably towards the end of the prior school year and then through the summer for the fall. So that's a good catch.
Anything else? Any questions from members of the public? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the Winooski Memorial Library Committee charter change?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Thomas, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We are on to item E. This is on for discussion or approval, a request for use of reserves for hazardous tree removal.
Yeah, so this came to our attention based on some community feedback we'd gotten around a few specific trees, and staff went out and did sort of an informal audit and realized there was more than we had realized. So we brought in a staff member from DJ's Tree Service, which we have worked with over the past few years, had them come through and identify, this group of trees, about 20 in the 3 areas that we felt like were in poor enough health and presenting enough of a public risk that we wanted to have them taken down. Upon getting that initial quote, the bid was above $10,000, which is our bid threshold. So we paused the process, went back out to bid, had 3 eligible bidders bids that we received. DJ's ended up being the low bid after that process. And so we are here tonight requesting initially funds to do tree removal. That's $12,675 for those 20 trees. And then are going to be looking at some alternative funding sources, hopefully, but may have to come back to address replacement trees as part of our tree ordinance. So wanted to start with the removal, get that kind of public risk mitigated, and then the ordinance gives us 2 years to deal with replacement trees. So we would be,
Oh, great.
over those next 2 years, looking to replace those.
Okay. Any questions from council?
So we would just be authorizing at this point the 12,675?
For the moment, yeah, I think we want to go out and see if there's some outside funding that we can bring in for the planting of the new trees, and we'll kind of look at that over the next year or so, and then come back if not.
Sounds good, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Any questions from members of the public?
I did have a quick question. Once the trees are removed, is there any plan or intention with how to use the trees once they're cut down?
So we are going to chip those and try to reuse the chips where we can.
Okay.
And we are going to look and see, I talked to DJs the first time they came through. So Tom Locatel has been doing some working for us, may be able to use some portions of the trees. So I think it's going to be a matter of what's salvageable and whether he could make some more kind of park-based amenities out of those. But otherwise, we're going to try to salvage chips and reuse those on like garden paths and things like that.
Okay.
So that's the hope.
Great. Yeah, I was thinking that there's over by the senior center where some of the garden plots are. You can tell there's a footpath that's kind of naturally grown there, and some wood chips might help mitigate some of the mud, or just maintain kind of a little bit of a beautification for that space.
I will say a few of the trees, in particular in Landry, and I think one or two of the three in Casamant, I'm trying to remember, we did discuss kind of just letting them fall and leaving them, because there's enough natural space there that's kind of part of the natural cycle of things anyhow. So those would not be removed, they'd just be dropped.
Okay.
But the ones that, like the one next to the pool, for instance, we can't just leave there. So that we would take the chips and try to reuse.
Okay, great.
Well, hearing no concerns, does someone want to make a motion to approve this request of use of reserves for hazardous tree removal?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. We are on to item F. This is the operational overview of City Manager Clerk's Office Planning and Zoning.
Yes, it's going to take me a minute to get this to work. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, can you enable screen sharing?
Let's see what I can do.
Can I?
Okay, I think I did it.
Thank you. Let's see. So I'm going to slideshow. Beginning. This is not doing what I expected. Oh, no. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to plug into that. Sorry.
Okay. Let's do a 5-minute recess. We will reconvene at 7:06.
for dealing with that. So we are trying something a little new this year to help orient a new counselor and to refresh returning members of council. Staff are presenting overviews of operations over the next several meetings. This might also help the public better understand how your local government works. So in that vein, council, please hold your questions, unless it's a clarification question, until the end of that office's introduction. So for council, our goal is also to present these overviews in time for you to digest and inform your thinking during the annual council policy priorities and strategies retreat, which you said.
Zoom can't hear.
Oh. Oh, you're muted. Guess I'll have to start over.
Sorry.
Can you hear us now, Angela, or anyone on Zoom?
You're good now.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you, Angela.
Thank you.
We'll start over. So we're trying something new this year to help orient a new counselor and to refresh returning members of council. Staff are presenting overviews of operations over the next several meetings. This might also help the public understand how your local government works. So in that vein, I've asked council to hold their questions until after the introduction to a particular office, unless it's a clarification question. So for council, our goal is to present these overviews in time for you to digest and then inform your thinking during the annual council policy priorities and strategies retreat, which they set for Saturday, May 13th. The public is also welcome to attend that. It'll be at the Senior Center. I'll acknowledge that for returning members of council, some of this will feel very repetitive, especially because you heard a lot of this information during budget season. But as you're not in operations every day, as is appropriate, we did want to remind you of what staff does do on a day-to-day basis. Again, so you have that as context when you're considering whether and what new priorities to add for this coming year. Starting with the organizational chart, today we'll be talking about the city manager's office, staffed by me, the city clerk's office, staffed by city clerk Jenny William and 2 assistants, and the planning and zoning office, staffed by Eric Forwald, with some assistance from the clerk's office and public safety administrative assistant. So to start with the city manager's office, I am part of the administration department. The administration department includes these staff. You'll hear from the heads of each of these offices, except for assessing, because assessing is a contractor, and equity, which is paused. I'm filling in for the city clerk for that office's overview today. So on a daily basis, the city manager staffs council, leads the organization, has some finance-related responsibilities, has some customer service responsibilities, has some personnel director responsibilities, and has some other roles, including emergency management director, acting as a member of the information technology team, serving as a point of contact for downtown Winooski, I'm currently acting as a staff liaison to the Housing Commission, and I also manage the assessor contract. Are there any clarification questions on this? Okay. So in fiscal year 2022-2023, that's this year, to date, we've made progress on this year's council policy priorities and strategies, in addition to the day-to-day work that isn't listed at this level. So by vision area, that top row, all refers to activities that touch on each of the 4 priority areas. You can see all but one of those here. The one that's missing is municipal infrastructure, since those progress items will be reviewed during the Public Works Department operational review. So under all, during the budget process, we supported council in advancing planning for when the tax increment financing district expires at the end of FY24. Essentially, we've allocated those funds by budgeting bridge funding in FY24. And when I say we, I don't mean it to be a royal we, but everything I do is supported by other staff. So that's what I mean by we. We've also incrementally been growing capacity going on to the next bullet in under all. We've been incrementally growing capacity among existing staff for diversity, equity, and inclusion work by increasing awareness of equity challenges among the leadership team and starting on department-specific activities. The next bullet, many people have contributed to bringing me on board by sharing knowledge and perspectives with me and giving me the grace of time to learn and experiment, including staff, council, commissioners, school staff at Winooski School District and St. Xavier's, several community organization representatives, and of course, community members. We've been trialing, next bullet in that under all, we've been trialing a stipend for inclusion and belonging commissioners as a method to increase access to serving on any of the commissions. See how that goes. And the next area, economic vitality, more specific to that area, again, with reference to the council priorities for this year. The Working Community Challenges Grant was awarded to Winooski by the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. The goal of the grant is cross-sector collaboration to promote workforce development through equity, especially among our new American community members. We've been working towards reforming the so-called core team in their language. Basically, this function as a steering committee. Reforming that core team will help us determine how best to use those funds. The next bullet, the Community Economic Development Officer resigned early last year before I started, and after considering needs from the community, I decided not to fill it, but to pivot the funds toward a housing position. So that did leave a gap in terms of what the Community Economic Development Officer used to do. Most of those tasks have been redistributed to other positions. The function of scanning for grants that proactively or cross-departmentally address Winooski needs is a remaining gap. Some of the grant writing capacity is also a remaining gap. When it's regarding a known need, we could contract with a grant writer. Specific to the housing priorities from council, next row down, we launched and publicized the Housing Trust Fund program that has been in the works for several years. With low uptake and with input from our contracted loan administrator, Opportunities Credit Union, we'll be supporting the Housing Commission in considering revisions to that program, especially the down payment assistance program. If the Housing Commission does decide to act on those recommendations, the program guidelines would then come back to you as council. The citywide reappraisal of property values was required by the state because our homes overall dropped below the threshold level of appraised value compared to fair market value. The citywide reappraisal is underway and about on schedule. In the next bullet, we've been supporting Efficiency Vermont's efforts to provide energy efficiency services to Winooski renters and landlords. Just for the public's benefit, their effort does also include businesses, as some of you might have seen in the Front Porch Forum post recently. And as noted above, we are hiring Winooski's first housing initiative director. A round 2 interview with a finalist will be tomorrow. And then finally, regarding council's priorities for safe, healthy, connected people, the last row, we are close to finalizing the plan with Champlain Housing Trust for renovating the Bryan Community Center. That's just phase 1. There's still grant raising to do and actual work, of course, but at least the planning is reaching the last legs, it sounds like. And we are staying engaged in regional dispatch for emergency services. We have had 2 types of setbacks recently that you'll hear about soon, once the governing body for regional dispatch has met. Does anyone have any clarification questions on this slide? Okay. So for the fiscal year 2024 goals and initiatives for my office, most of this will look familiar, and that is on purpose. I am working on average about 45 to 50 hours a week now, and not anticipating that to change much as we onboard the Housing Initiative Director, and that is a sustainable number of hours for me. So I'll just focus on the new items. Under the All Vision area, for new items, I do recommend a goal for developing and implementing an inclusive community plan for staff, similar to the one council has for engagement, that is. The last item is updated under the All row from the version that was shared in your packet, so just note that there's a difference there. We are planning on a community engagement effort targeting the equity audit findings that the city as an organization can't solve on its own, like the finding that we are a welcoming but not inclusive community. We can't solve that by ourselves. For new items that relate to economic vitality, the current downtown Winooski executive director is stepping down soon. They're anticipating extending an offer soon for a replacement. They are an important partner for the city for economic vitality, and so it's certainly consistent with this vision area that I support their onboarding. Housing is more or less the same as the current year. Oh, sorry, skipped ahead. And then for new items that relate to safe, healthy, connected people, our police chief is planning to retire in October, so we'll need to recruit, onboard, and support a new one. And similarly, the superintendent of Winooski School District's last day is June 30 of this year. He and I, the current one, and I meet every other week to discuss and advance our shared priorities, especially equity. Sean McMahon, the current superintendent, also helped bring me up to speed when I first started. So given our shared service area of Winooski and the huge impact that the school has on our families especially, it is consistent with community goals for me to be helping on board the next superintendent. So that's all I was going to say about the city manager's office. Are there any questions? Okay. All right, so we'll go on to the city clerk's office. Again, I'm covering for the city clerk who's on leave. So on a daily basis, the city clerk processes land records, processes payments and invoices, processes all licenses for the city, including those that are state mandated or locally required, provides notary public services to anyone coming in for free, stewards all records, and provides customer service to walk-ins and phone calls, most of which go through the city clerk's office. On a less than daily basis, they also provide administrative assistance to three other offices and serve as clerk of the council. And of course, perhaps the most significant sporadic or occasional responsibility is the office manages elections for the city, school, regional, state, and federal votes. Are there any clarification questions on this matter? On this slide, rather? Okay. Because of all the statutory responsibilities of this office, the matters listed as progress and potential will be more operational unless at the council level. So fiscal year 2023, the one that we're currently in, progress on items of note have included supporting the formation of the Inclusion and Belonging Commission and staffing that commission. The city clerk stepped up to this when the equity director resigned. Jenny Willingham, who is the current city clerk, she has led increasing the availability of land records by having them digitized back to the year 2000. And then with longtime senior assistant city clerk Janet Berard's departure, we have been onboarding a new assistant city clerk, Amanda Casper McFadden. This is of particular note because the second assistant, Angel Lane, is on extended leave. So it's a challenging time in that office and everyone's really pitching in. Janet was supporting the reappraisal, so Jenny and Amanda are handling that now together. Any clarification questions on this slide? Okay. For fiscal year 2024 goals, again, most of these are operational and likely won't make it to the council document for higher level priorities. The point here is to give some idea of what will be occupying this office's time. I will say a few words about the first and last items. So the communications director will discuss the language access plan during his overview at your next meeting. And then the last item on here is due to the small number of dogs we have licensed compared to the number of dogs we see out and about. Dog licensing is important because of the deadly nature of rabies. You might not see the connection, but this is one of those low risk, high impact issues that local governments are part of managing. Since the fatality rate of rabies is almost 100% in humans, dog licensing is one way we make sure all dogs are vaccinated for rabies. Without a license or proof of vaccination, responding to a dog bite call takes more time than it needs to, and anxiety for both the dog owner and the person who was bit. Any questions on the city clerk's operations? Okay, so note you can expect a similar outline for all of the departmental overviews, so if this didn't work for you, let me know and we can look at potentially adjusting the remaining ones. And I'll pass it over to Planning and Zoning Manager Eric Vorwald.
Thank you very much. As Elaine mentioned, I am Eric Vorwald. I'm the Planning and Zoning Manager for the City of Winooski. I am also appointed as the city's zoning administrator, and like several other departments, I am the department of one person. So all the work that I'll be talking about is done by me, for the most part. I do have support from, as Elaine mentioned, from the city clerks and from our public safety administration. But for the most part, this is all happening within my realm. So I'm going to talk about this in two departments, or two components basically. One side being the planning and one side being the zoning. The zoning being more of the current, what's happening right now. The planning being what are we looking at for the future. So the first slide here, I'll talk about the zoning function of the department. So a lot of what I do with the zoning side is communications with the public. This is through emails, through walk-ins, through phone calls, and it's anything from general inquiries to what is the zoning of my property? Can I build X on my property? Can I see the very specific plans for this property that is being redeveloped right now? To doing site-specific visits and site-specific reviews of property redevelopment proposals, things like that, multi-million-dollar projects like you see going up all around the city. And I should mention a lot of these points will kind of tie in together, so I may kind of reference some things as I talk about them and jump back and forth. So part of the zoning function, the current planning function, is that land development review, and this is really primarily through the zoning applications. This includes posting of properties for either notice of intent to issue a permit, public hearings, decisions of the Development Review Board, things of that nature. It also includes site visits, which are pre-post development, during development, to just make sure what is being built is consistent with our regulations as far as setbacks, building heights, things of that nature. I provide staff to the Development Review Board, which we meet generally once a month. The Development Review Board is a quasi-judicial body that really has a specific statutory function, looking at conditional uses, waivers and variances, and appeals of decisions that I make, so as the zoning administrator. So that's one of the bodies that I staff. Also, the Project Review Committee is another entity that I provide staff support for. The Project Review Committee is made up of the department heads of the city, and we meet specifically to review projects in our Gateway Zoning District. So any of the projects you see on Mallets Bay Avenue, Main Street, and East Allen Street, the larger projects go through our Project Review Committee for basically for a recommendation to me. They're still administrative approvals, but we do meet as a committee to review those projects. Also, in my role as the zoning administrator, I provide enforcement of our land use regulations. So if anything is happening out there that is inconsistent, I follow up with the property owner, issue a notice of violation if necessary, and also follow that process through to some form of conclusion, whether that be the property owner decides they correct the violation, we do give them that opportunity, or if they want to appeal that violation, taking that forward to the Development Review Board, and then potentially even to the Environmental Court, the Environmental Division of the Supreme Court, if it gets to that point. Also in the function of the zoning side, property record review and research. This is generally part of the sale of property. We do whenever a property is sold, we do a review of our land records to see if there's any outstanding permits that are still open, figure out if they should be closed, if they need to be inspected and then closed. We also do a review of the assessor cards to make sure that what we're seeing on the application for that property sale matches what we have in our records as well. So looking at bedroom counts, looking at square footage, things of that nature to make sure those two components match. So that's, I'd say, kind of a very broad overview of the role that I have on the zoning side. Any questions about any of that? Okay. So the other function that I serve is on the planning side, the future side of things. So this is really more kind of the setting of the policy and kind of following through with some of those aspects. So as part of that role, I provide staff to the Planning Commission. We typically meet 2 times a month. The Planning Commission's role is also statutory. Their primary role is maintaining the city's master plan, adopting the policies for the city, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. They also, another role of the Planning Commission, which we've been doing a lot lately, is working on amendments to our Unified Land Use and Development Regulations. I would also just like to mention, not because I asked him to be here, but Connor Daly, sitting in the back of the room, is one of our Planning Commission members. So just figured I would recognize him because he's here. Also in my role in the planning function is GIS administration and maintenance. Our geographic information systems is the basis for the mapping that we do. That includes police incident reporting, land development, tracking and mapping, and tracking of property sales. All of our infrastructure, or not all of our infrastructure, a lot of our infrastructure is also included in that GIS database, so a lot of it's the maintenance and upkeep of those records to make sure they're accurate and can be used to make maps like the one that's sitting on the table there. So so that's part of what I do as the planning side. Also, a lot of what I do in the capacity from planning is amendments to our land development regulations. It's a living document, so we like to make sure that it's current either with state statute. When the legislature makes changes, we sometimes have to amend our regulations as well. also make changes that help improve clarity for people that are using the document. We want to make sure that the residents that are trying to figure out how to develop their property can understand our land use regulations as well to the best ability as possible, and also so that somebody that's interpreting them, the future zoning administrators that are interpreting these regulations, can do it easily. So there's not a lot of gray area. Want to be able to make sure that there's a consistent interpretation no matter who's sitting in that role. Along with that, I also do some project oversight for consultant projects that we have, where we generally, what that involves is we get funding through the Regional Planning Commission's Unified Planning Work Program. So right now we are working on a walk-bike master plan. In the past, as you may recall, we did a parking study, parking inventory analysis and management plan. Those are projects that I would provide oversight for from the city's perspective, not necessarily the day-to-day project management, but making sure that the city's needs are being met through those efforts. And finally, master plan development and progress tracking. The master plan is really the city's primary policy document that sets the general policy for the city. This is something that's outlined in statute. In order for us to have things like zoning, to have standing in Act 250 and Section 248 proceedings, to be able to get us some grant funding, we need to have a master plan that is consistent with state statute. So one of the roles I play as planning and zoning manager on the planning side is working with the Planning Commission to update that document. It gets updated every 8 years. Our last master plan was adopted in 2019, so we're coming up on our 4-year check-in with the Regional Planning Commission. So we start about 2 years prior to the expiration. We start looking at the updates for that document.
Eric, could you give the 4-sentence overview of Act 250 and Section 248?
Yes. So Act 250 is the state's land use law. It was enacted in, I believe, in the 60s, really kind of as a response to a lot of the development of the ski resorts and kind of the larger uncontrolled development that was bringing. So the state stepped in and said, we need to provide some oversight here to make sure that what's being developed is consistent with state goals in these communities where there might not be local land use regulations. Section 248 is a similar component, but it deals with energy and not just energy, but telecommunications. The Public Utility Commission is really the body that reviews Section 248 processes. And Act 250 and Section 248 are references to the bill, Act 250, that was adopted initially, and Section 248 of the state statute that those regulations are included in. Two items that I did not include on this slide, just because they're not as consistent, is, speaking of legislation, I serve on the Vermont Planners Association Executive Committee and also participate in their legislative committee. As such, one of the things I do is track legislation through the sessions that may have some nexus to planning and may have some impact on the city's regulations. To that point, recently, working with the mayor, provided some language to one of the Senate committees. The name is escaping me now because it's a long name.
Economic Development and something.
Yes, there's like 3 names to it.
Yeah.
Related to Act 250 specifically, and looking at ways to have some of that permitting authority delegated to the municipalities, because there's a lot of duplication in what we do and what Act 250 does. So that's one of the components that I serve in this role as well. And also I am the city's representative to the Planning Advisory Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Regional Planning Commission. So those are not as day-to-day, but those are also activities that I serve in. Looking at progress for 2023 and to date, I will say a lot of this work is going to be related to the planning side, the future planning, not the current planning, as the zoning piece of it is less kind of project specific in this regard. So again, continuing to work with the Planning Commission on amendments to our land use regulations to support council's goals. Continuing to digitize our land records, specifically our street files. We have a file on every address in the city for all of our permits that basically have ever happened. A lot of a lot of documents in those files. Some of them are very outdated. When properties are redeveloped, we need to figure out what to do with those older files. So I'm trying to get all of that information scanned in so that eventually, as the assessment starts to come online, we can potentially tie those property files with the assessment so it can all be available electronically to the public, either via web-based or here at City Hall. So it's a slow process, but we're working through it because it also involves getting rid of some of those documents as well that are either outdated, unnecessary, duplicative, things of that nature. So working with the Regional Planning Commission, again, as I mentioned, on the master plan for your check-in, that should be coming up here in a couple of months.
I can wait till the end.
Okay. So that's kind of under the general all category. Economic vitality, working on ways to update our sidewalk use permit. We talked a lot about that in the last several meetings. So that's kind of on hold for right now until we'll bring that back up in the coming months to kind of to refresh that effort and hopefully make some progress there. Supporting the citywide appraisal as necessary. And we also developed an application and process for reviewing cannabis applications through the state, those being retail, cultivator, or basically any of the components that might be available, including the establishment of the local cannabis control board, which is you all. From the housing side, working again to make changes to the land use regulations to support more housing, including affordable units and multi-bedroom units. That's a component. We did include some amendments several months ago that are now in place to provide incentives for that type of housing. Also making other changes as necessary to support other council priorities. So that's one of the ongoing things that we look at. Just happens to be under housing in this case. And again, as I mentioned, leading the city's efforts on the Walk Bike Master Plan through the Regional Planning Commission. And there's a separate effort through that Unified Planning Work Program funding that is doing a scoping study for LaFountain Street and Dion Street. So trying to make sure that those two efforts are coordinated. So I'm tangentially working with municipal infrastructure on that effort as well. Looking at proposed goals and initiatives for 2024. There's
Yeah, if you want to, if you can finish the slide or whatever.
Yeah, I should be pretty quick on this. I was going to say a lot of the same items that were on the last slide are on this slide as well, as it's most of what I do is a continuing effort. Not many of the projects that I work on for the kind of planning side really have an expiration. They kind of always are happening. So many of the same things kind of carried forward in this slide as well. Again, a lot of it is really reacting to council policies and making sure that whatever policies you all set, we are incorporating into our regulations so that we're actually implementing those policies. So, and with that, I will be happy to take any questions.
About the master plan check-in, what
Yes.
does that involve? What does that look like? And will council get an update?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not entirely sure what that's going to look like. I don't know how many of the check-ins have actually been done through the Regional Planning Commission. I want to say not a terribly recent piece of statute, but that change I think happened 2017, 2018. So we're just starting to get to the first round of master plans that have been adopted since then that would go through that 4-year check-in.
Okay.
So I think generally, as I understand it from some of the documents I've seen, when the legislation was being drafted, it's really going to be kind of progress on our master plan goals. And as you may recall, last year, I believe, we spent some time talking about the master plan goals and kind of where we are with progress on those goals. So I'm envisioning something like that.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we will definitely bring that forward to council for information.
And not that I envision it to happen, but has there ever been with, the limited history of some of the folks in the room, but any mid-review, it's an 8-year plan, has there ever been a mid-plan review, amendment or adjustment?
I'm not aware.
Yeah.
So previous to the change in statute, the plans were 5-year plans, and so they were being updated fairly regularly. Mm-hmm. We can update the plan at any time, but it is, depending on what the update looks like, it can be a fairly extensive process with all the public hearings that are required and reviewed by the Regional Planning Commission. Depending on whether or not it's a substantive change, we may have to update the whole plan to any current statute. So oftentimes it can be a lot of work to update to make updates midstream, I'll say. That I'm hopeful that the 4-year check-in will give us a sense of whether or not we should be looking at any potential amendments before we do the full update, but I think we'll know more when we do that check-in.
This is our first 8-year plan, right?
That's correct. This is our first 8-year plan.
Great.
Thank you.
No other questions? Any questions from attendees? Okay.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you. Item G, 2022-23 Policy Priorities and Strategies Update for All.
Yep, so conveniently, well, first background. So council receives a quarterly update on all of the annual policy priorities and strategies that they set in May or June. As I mentioned in the city manager's office overview, those that touch on all of the vision areas gets its own update. So that's what this is. And I functionally just gave you the highlights. So in summary, though, in the priority and recommended items, we've made progress where we had staff capacity and not where we didn't. Is there any particular item you'd like to ask about now that's of general interest? Also, if it's in the weeds, we can certainly take it offline.
Feel free to push back if this is in the weeds. The one question I had was I feel like I've heard talk about working with the school on both the thinking about the language access plan and the community outreach around the equity audit. I don't know if you have more updates about that yet, or if that's still in process, or if Paul has that.
Yeah, Paul can speak to that next meeting.
Sounds good.
Sure.
The IT services bid, it says winter 2022. I'm thinking we just might want to update that, maybe.
Well, we kind of can't because that's what it says.
Okay. Fair enough. And
in terms of the priorities document that, yeah, council set.
And then the phone systems door access system upgrades. I know it says it's not started yet, but I was just, is the first step on that looking for like putting a bid out to see who could do that? Or
Yes, yeah, there are several vendors that could potentially supply, so we definitely want to put it bid out because it could be quite expensive.
Right, okay. That is all I have for questions. Thank you.
And I just want to say, I think, considering all of the changes in this past year, and we're not even through it all, just some really impressive progress. So
appreciate that.
Thanks for the good work on this.
Any questions from members of the public? Okay. Thanks, Elaine. Moving on to item H. This is on for discussion or approval, scheduling the validation vote for just cause eviction.
Okay, so I'm basically going to be reading from my cover sheet, so you can take a break if you've read it already. In December of 2022, the city clerk accepted a voter-backed charter change petition that would empower council to pass a just cause eviction ordinance. At council's January 3rd, 2023 meeting, staff advised and council approved public hearing dates of January 26th and February 4th. After the January 3rd meeting, staff found out that the first public hearing date was too early to be in compliance with state law on responding to voter-backed charter change petitions. Vermont League of Cities and Towns, also known as VLCT, advises that the first hearing on a voter-backed charter change must be warned 30 to 40 days in advance of the hearing date. So the first hearing should have been set for between February 2nd and February 12th so that it could be warned for enough days. Staff consulted VLCT's Municipal Assistance Center attorneys, the city's attorney, and the Secretary of State's office on how to cure this compliance issue. We also reviewed the options with the person who submitted the voter-backed petition. Based on all this input at council's January 17th, 2023 meeting, staff advised and council agreed on the original plan, meaning public hearings on January 26th and February 4, and voting on the just cause eviction charter change on March 7, 2023. This option required the city to hold a vote after March 7, 2023 to validate that charter change vote. There is no law, rule, or guideline for determining the date of a validation vote. The two types of options on when to when to hold it are before next town meeting day or on next town meeting day. You could technically do it after town meeting day, next town meeting day, that doesn't seem advisable. So before next town meeting day, recommended to be in the fall due to staffing challenges in the clerk's office this spring, then voters potentially vacationing during the summer. So the advantage of this is voters might be more likely to remember what the vote is about. The cons are requiring extra cost and work. The estimate of the extra cost is $2,500 to $2,800. This would not include staff time or postage, which of course would be required. And the turnout is likely to be low. If it was held on the next town meeting day, which is March 5th, 2024, the advantages of this is that there is no additional expense. More people also do tend to vote in regular elections compared to special elections. The con of this option is that it's the opposite of before, so voters might be more confused about why they're voting on this matter again. I recommend, or what might seem like again, I recommend holding the validation vote next town meeting day to reduce expense and workload, and because the vote is likely to be confusing regardless of when it is held, so that consideration is not really too much in favor of one over the other. And just to note, the language of the vote is provided by statute. So that would be, shall the action, taken at the meeting of this city held on March 7, 2023, in spite of the fact that, and this is the specific situation for us, the first public hearing on the voter proposed just cause eviction charter change was warned for less than 30 days before the first hearing. So this is the issue. And then the rest of the statutory languages, and any act or action of the municipal officers or agents pursuant thereto be readopted, ratified, and confirmed. Basically, it's saying that the vote was valid despite this issue, and everything else that happened since that issue is also okay. Are there any questions?
Thinking about the part of like, since this issue, does this change at all when this goes to the legislature?
That's a great question. So no, we asked the Secretary of State about that. We certified the election just like you would certify any other election. We've told them that there was this issue there, so they understand that as a context for the vote. At this point, the legislature can do whatever they want. They could take this as advisory. They could go with it, or they could wait on it, or wait for the validation vote, or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay. And my one other thing, and this sounds like it's probably not something that can be changed. I was just wondering if people might be confused about at the meeting, the city hall. I understand it's like town meeting day. If people might be confused about meeting instead of like ballot or vote, but that might not be able to be changed.
Correct, unfortunately.
So that would just be if we're ever talking, when this comes up, when we're talking about it, people might need that
Clarification, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the recommendation. It's confusing no matter what. Town meeting day, we're already going to be doing outreach. This is just another item we're going to have to include when we talk to people and put out communications.
My only question, there's no election before town meeting day, there's no primary?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. If there were any other regular election, we would have said that's when we, as soon as we can, but unfortunately, this is the soonest.
Okay.
Any questions from the public? Any other questions from council? All right. So would someone like to make a motion to schedule the validation vote for town meeting day 2024?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Thomas, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we finally can tell people what it's going to be when we get that question on a regular basis.
Okay, let's move on to item I, on for discussion approval, the O'Brien Community Center rehab request.
So again,
Sorry, want to make a note. I'm going to recuse myself from this conversation.
Excellent.
So again, mostly reading from the cover sheet, congressionally directed spending are, well, never mind. Congressionally directed spending are federal budget appropriations put forward by members of the U.S. Congress on behalf of their constituents. They are more or less what used to be called earmarks. In Vermont, Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Peter Welch, and Representative Becca Balint all have online forms for submitting congressionally directed spending requests. It can be helpful, apparently, to submit the same request to all three members of the delegation. Council approval is needed for grants for more than $5,000. This request is for $1 million, so quite a bit over that. Champlain Housing Trust worked with the city manager to write the request. The building is in need of improvements to enhance its ability to serve the community through its many service organization tenants. If people are interested, the tenants are listed in the cover sheet for this agenda item on the website. I'll paste a link in the chat in a minute. The deadlines for submitting the three requests have passed. In these cases, past practice is staff will submit on time, so they have been submitted, and then ask council for retroactive approval as soon as possible and always before any funds are accepted. Are there any questions?
I just want to say there's some really good narrative in here. So appreciate whoever took the time to write this and add some color to how this building can help support our community. Any questions?
I'll say that the Community and Economic Development Officer, Heather Carrington, was the source of a lot of this good narrative, so her work continues. And I'm not able to paste in the chat, so that's why it's not showing up.
I dropped in the cover sheet link. I can put in the other one too.
Okay, thank you.
It always depends if it says everyone or just panels.
Oh, yeah. All right, any questions from the public? Okay, hearing no concerns, would someone like to make a motion to approve authorize the congressionally directed spending request?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Aurora, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those abstaining?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item J, acting city manager designation.
Again, mostly reading from the cover sheet. Winooski City Charter says, by letter filed with the city clerk, the manager shall designate, subject to approval of the council, a qualified city administrative officer to exercise the powers and perform the duties of manager during a temporary absence or disability. During such absence or disability, the council may revoke such designation at any time and appoint another officer of the city to serve until the manager shall return or the disability shall cease. This is, for reference, 24, it's the appendix to the Vermont State Statutes, annotated, Chapter 19, Section 502. My request is for you to approve my designation of Community Services Director Ray Coffey, Fire Chief and Director of Code Enforcement John Audit, or Public Works Director John Rauscher to serve as acting city manager in my absence or disability, with John Rauscher as acting if I am incapacitated and unable to designate for a specific outage.
So this is like a blanket? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Traditionally, you would appoint one, but I'm trying to split the load.
Seems fine. Any questions, concerns? Okay, do I have a motion to approve acting city manager designations for the city manager?
So moved.
Motion by Charlie, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item K, council liaison assignments. Okay, so this is on for discussion or approval. Essentially, we act as liaisons for the commissions that are policy advisory bodies to us, one for each of the strategic vision areas, and also the Inclusion and Belonging Commission and the Planning Commission, which is state statute required. We also have a couple of other like partner organizations. So we designate someone to downtown Winooski, someone from council. Some of these others are appointed residents that you'll see in the document. And then there's the Heart of Winooski Chittenden Solid Waste District is actually usually a resident, but you brought that through with you into the council role. And then we discussed at a previous meeting having an engagement liaison role to sort of be point person to help organize the group of us on our engagement procedures. So we can make these assignments tonight or just share feelings or preferences and work it out, see how that goes. In the document is listed like who is currently assigned to any given thing. So I think I would first just ask if anyone has strong feelings about wanting to retain their current roles, any of their current roles.
I would like to continue on the Chittenden Solid Waste District, and I would also like to continue on the Municipal Infrastructure Commission. They had an informal vote on Thursday and unanimously asked me to stay.
Excellent. So be it.
I'm happy to stay with both my current commissions too, so unless someone really wants to make a pitch.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to stay on downtown Winooski. Have we heard if the airport commission is maintaining that 4 p.m. or any thoughts on
I
pushing
believe
it?
they are. Bryn, are you willing to serve on that one?
I can take that on,
Oh.
Excellent.
unless you have interest.
Not above anything else in particular.
Okay.
I'll put.
So, Charlie, we have housing, which Jim Duncan was the liaison for, and then finance, which I have been doing. I do not have a strong preference either way on those, so I'm curious if you do.
I would love to be part of the Housing Commission.
I kind of thought so with your background.
Yeah, I think that's a really good fit. I would be much less useful than you in regards to finance, I think.
Okay.
But I'm willing to learn. So.
Along the way.
I did want to just mention for the first Wednesday in April, I will need someone
Coverage?
to, yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
I may be able to do that, but I'll follow up.
Okay, thank you.
And then is anyone interested in taking on this engagement liaison role?
Before we get there, I'm happy to take up the Heart of Winooski.
Oh, sure. I skipped over that one, thank you.
And I see we have partnership for prevention, but
We have not historically actually appointed someone to that.
that was my thought, but I want to confirm.
Is it,
What are they preventing?
Ray, are you still attending that?
I'm not. Their meetings have been a bit sporadic as occasions now, legislator. So
Oh, yeah.
It's been a little bit hit or miss, and 2 additional staff that are new. So, but I see them pretty much daily in the office. So
Okay.
happy to continue to stay connected there.
Thank you, Ray.
They're preventing addiction.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah,
Thomas,
sorry.
I assumed, but I didn't want to assume, so yeah, thank you. Clarification.
Any takers on engagement liaison?
Can you explain a little bit what that?
Yeah, actually, okay, sorry, I should give you some more background.
No, that's okay.
So we essentially last year put together a list of known, like, so the goal was to go where people are and like go meet them. And we came up with a list of like known organizations, groups, community groups, and have been attempting to do some regular reach out. Like, I think theoretically we discuss quarterly, but twice a year is probably more realistic. But I guess at least reaching out quarterly to say, hey, do you want to have a member of the council come meet with you and your group or whatever? One, to share if there's, you know, what's happening, what are we doing as a city? But then 2, to also invite, like, what do you care about? What do you want us to know? And then with subsequent visits, actually like close the loop on some of that. Like, we heard this last time, here's what we've done since then.
Okay.
And so we've got a spreadsheet where we like assigned people out, but it would be really useful if one of us, if somebody like took a lead in like going through there monthly and being like, hey, did you ping them? Like, have you heard from them? And then we also want to commit to doing a quarterly, the way that you saw staff present earlier, the priorities and strategies, like quarterly update. We wanted to commit to doing a quarterly update too, to show, essentially hold ourselves accountable. Like, here is what we have done as far as engagement to try to get better at it.
Right, here's what we said we'd do, here's what we've done.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Because it's been a little bit challenging to, I'll speak for myself at least, to consistently like be checking in on that and making sure I'm following up on outreach and that sort of thing.
Okay.
You all gave me the honor of being deputy mayor, so I feel like the least I can do is keep you all on track. So I'm happy to take that up.
I love it, Thomas. Thank you. Bake that into the role later for future obligations. Okay, well, this is great. We have filled in all of the slots. Can I get a motion to approve these city council liaison assignments for 23-24?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
No arm wrestling required.
Yeah, I can send out like a recap email too, just to, so we all remember who's doing what. So on to item L, a resolution recognizing March 31st as International Transgender Day of Visibility. Councillor Hurd, would you like to introduce?
Sure. I'll read mostly from my memorandum or recap that. I'm bringing this forward to the council and mayor to recognize March 31st as International Transgender Day of Visibility. As the most diverse city in the state with a historic council makeup, and given the national narrative aiming to restrict the human rights of transgender people, I'm hoping that this recognition really aligns with our Declaration of Inclusion, as well as, which includes, which states, we recognize the value of diversity in our community, contributes to the vibrancy of our unique cultural fabric in Winooski, which makes our community an exciting place to live. It also aligns with recent actions of the Burlington City Council and a proclamation made last year by President Biden to recognize March 1st. I also wanted to include a quote from Outright Executive Director, which states that in a national political climate where hate and fear continue to escalate, youth urgently need to hear that their community has their backs and that their rights will be protected. So I'm hoping that we, by adopting this resolution, Winooski can join in uplifting and giving the support to the transgender members of our community.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this onto the agenda. Are there any questions from council or comments?
I had read Aurora's email a little late, unfortunately, so I wanted to ask if I could amend the language a little bit. On the third whereas, you'll see it says resulting in murder, vandalism, comma, and then before and threatening, I was hoping to add vandalism and the dissemination of anti-trans propaganda. And then it would continue as written.
Does that sound like a good edit to folks?
I think so, given.
Your support?
Yeah.
Do you have that written out?
I do.
Can you just email it to Elaine?
Yep.
Are there any other comments?
Just that I appreciate it.
Yeah, in light of national rhetoric, I think it is important to, and I didn't know about this day, so I'm glad to be learning about that.
And I appreciate both Thomas and Charlie and Bryn offering some edits and suggestions.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution recognizing March 31st as International Transgender Day of Visibility?
As amended. As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And we can push this out the way we do our other important resolutions. So we are on to item M, the City Manager Evaluation Summary. So Charlie, before you joined, we conducted our annual evaluation of our city manager. This is a process where council and members of the leadership team provide feedback, and then so that's like a private survey. We review those results and have a discussion in executive session. This document is meant to serve as a summary so that there's something documented for the public to see for the performance review. Are there any questions from council on this?
Just want to add that it may seem a little odd that we're doing an annual evaluation less than a year after Elaine's hiring, but that there's, and I don't know if you want to get into the
cycle.
You could state in the intent, but with the council turnover in March, also just trying to assure that the council that's been with Elaine the longest is the entity, is the group that's doing the evaluation. So that's why that timing is also attributed to the way it is.
It seems logical, given the turning of the tide, so to speak.
Yeah, so we'll probably engage in this process again next January.
Good, great.
Any questions? Thank you all for contributing your summary thoughts as well. Do I have a motion to approve the city manager evaluation summary?
So moved.
I don't think it's on for approval.
Oh.
It's not.
Ah, drat. Sorry about that.
Can we just put it in consent agenda?
Yes, of course.
Next one. Thank you. Okay, thanks for the discussion. That's the end of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, meeting adjourned. Okay.